Good evening. This is Jim over at Malka Garden Center. Hope all is well. Wanted to go over something really important tonight, especially at this time of the year, and that is proper watering techniques. So I'm going to show you a few different techniques on what type of hose end sprayer to use, duration of timing, where you're going to be watering your plants at, and especially at this time of the year with it being hot and dry, you want to try to be consistently out there watering, especially your new plants and even your existing plants. When we get into a drought, it's really good to water your existing plants as well, because it's going to help prevent stress and it'll improve the longevity of your plant material. So first thing I want to explain is starting off with the proper hose end, or what we like to use is a wand, and it tends to water plants a little bit more thoroughly. So if you can get a hold of your basic garden hose, but a wand just like this, and it has or it comes with a automatic shut-off little valve here, which is nice. It makes it easier, especially when you're moving around or if you have a large property. But you want to get a wand that has a shower setting, that we call it. So it's going to give you a nice, consistent amount of water that comes out, and it doesn't cause too much pressure to hit the area around the plant, like the mulch, and it'll make it go flying everywhere. So that's really important. So start with that, and then the other thing that's most important when you're watering is to remember to not water on the leaves. The last thing you want to do is to be watering on top of the leaves and the flowers and everything, because there's a few different reasons why that's important to not do that. The first reason is that when you are watering on top of the leaves, especially when we have hot, humid conditions, you can get into a situation where you can have fungal damage and you can have diseases be promoted within your plant material. The other reason why it's better to not water on top of the leaves and actually do it at the base, so I'll show you here. You want to water right underneath the leaves the best you can, okay? And it's really important to do that as well, because you're going to be watering at the most efficient area. The roots of the plant, which are at the base, are going to absorb the water most efficiently and effectively. So by watering in that area, you're going to make sure that the water is getting down to the most important and effective area within the plant for it to take it up and make sure the plant stays healthy. So when you are watering your plants, do your best to make sure that you keep it underneath the leaves. And by getting one of these wands, they come in short lengths or even really long lengths. You can find them here at the garden center or also at any hardware store. It makes it easier so you don't have to bend down too much, especially if there's a longer one. But you really want to do your best to get the water right underneath at the base, okay? And for certain plants, especially when you're kind of going with a small plant or a medium or a large, there's also kind of the duration that you want to water your plants. So if you have a smaller plant, usually what we do, like a perennial, you could say you could water for approximately 10, maybe 15 seconds at a time to really saturate the area around the base of the plant. Then when you get into something a little bit larger, like a rose or a shrub, you can go around 30 to 40 seconds. When you get into like a shade tree or a small to medium ornamental or even a large shade tree, you can go about 1 minute for the ornamentals, and then the bigger shade trees about 2 to 3 minutes. So it's a really good duration to help water these plants in thoroughly. Now there are other schools of thought that explain that watering should be done long and slow. My experience is, yes, that is important and that's doable, okay, if you're going to let your hose sit out there for 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time, and that can be helpful for plant material. However, it's more helpful for material that has been established for years and years, and they have a large root system and they could absorb the water effectively and efficiently. When you have young plant material, especially if it's coming from our nursery where we water it fairly often to keep the quality up for you guys, what you want to do is try to water it a little bit less duration, but a little bit more frequently. And eventually, though, you will start to kind of wean it off of that. So if you do an everyday situation for the first couple weeks, or especially during a very hot period of the year, like the summertime, if you can do that, then you can start to wean it off. So you can do that for a week or two, then you can go to another every other day situation. If we don't have any rain, then you can even go to an every 2 to 3 days. But you have to, one, let Mother Nature tell you. If it's hot and dry, you want to be watering more often. If it's rainy, you don't have to water as much. But you really need to let the plant dictate how much extra water you're going to give it, or how frequent, and as well how often you're, basically if we're getting a lot of rain and things like that. But the biggest thing is the duration, though. If you have a really, really small plant like a perennial, you don't want to be watering this for a couple minutes at a time. Or if you have a rose or something, you don't want to soak it for 10 minutes, and especially if it's new. It's not going to help it. You can cause issues where a lot of the water is going to really run off, and there's not enough root system for it to really absorb it. But also too, you can cause issues where you're saturating the root ball too much, or you know, the area around the plant too much, and that can cause issues. And if it does lose oxygen in the area, and it'll lose oxygen if there's too much water in the root system, then the plant really can't respond and can't do well and can't grow. So you can't overwater plants. So just a couple really important tips, and I do have one little quick rule of thumb. If you ever forget how long you should water, what duration you should water a plant at, use this rule, and it's like what I call the 10-second rule. So if you have a plant and it is 1 foot tall, that means you want to water it for about 10 seconds. So something that is 1 foot, water it for 10 seconds. Something that's 2 foot, water it for 20 seconds, and on down the line. 3 feet, 30 seconds. It'll just help you get into a situation where you're going to be giving it a good, sufficient amount of water, but not too much. Now, when it comes to, say, large established shade trees, things that have been in there for 15, 20 years, we get into a drought, or especially like plants that love a lot of water, like willows and river birches and things like that. You get into a situation where, yes, they're going to need a lot of water, and they're a bigger plant. So 1 to 2 minutes isn't sufficient, especially in a real severe drought. So go ahead and throw down a good 5, 10, 15, even 20 minutes at a slow soak. But it's 100% my way of thinking on this. It might not work for everybody, but I feel in the experience that I've had with plant material for many years, this way tends to work out really well, and I think you'd have good success if you have had issues, especially in the past, with watering and caring for plants. But if you have any further questions, please comment on the video, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. But I think this will help hopefully alleviate some issues, making sure that you're watering at the base, not on the leaves, and also being cognizant of the duration and the frequency, and it is based off the size of the plant. So hopefully that can help you guys out. And like I said, any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks so much. Have a great night.